Hello there, William here again, and welcome to what must be my 13th video regarding the Paul Howard Fluting Jig. So, on this Monday morning, freshly back from Coventry, from the UK and Ireland Woodturning Symposium, where I had a great weekend and was able to meet up and chat with some of the great YouTubers, including Mike Walt, John Clothier and Stuart Farini. The symposium also gave me the opportunity to speak to Paul Howard at great length regarding his fluting jig and other equipment, and I picked up some very useful tips and some good ideas for some new projects. So this week's project is something which I hadn't planned, because it's going to be my first commission piece for a project which includes the router jig. Now, the client wanted a functional bowl, in other words a bowl that's actually going to have some practical use but with some latticework decorations on. So I've decided upon a bowl with a very wide but thin rim, with some annular grooves around the back and with some arced fluting on the front. The bowl itself will still be about 8 inches in diameter. Now, this piece of wood, this piece of timber which I selected for this job, I acquired from a pile of cut-offs from a local timber mill about 3 weeks ago, and it's sapelli, or sapelli I should say, and I paid the princely sum of £2 for it, so actually it was quite a bargain. So then, this piece is about 12 inches in diameter. Using the rule of a third, want to use about a third of it for the rim and 2/3 for the bowl. So we've got a rim of 2 inches and the bowl itself is approximately 8 inches. So first thing to do then is to get it mounted on a faceplate. I'm using a faceplate rather than a worm screw because I think it's a more positive attachment. Before we hit the lathe, just a quick shout out here to my friend young Richard, woodturner from Crickherne. This weekend it's his big event. He says he's following his dream and spending the rest of his life with his best friend. Well, I hope everything works out for you, Richard, because when I did this, let me tell you, the wife was bloody livid. Okay, going to pause here for a quick update. For the sharp-eyed amongst you, halfway through the video I've shot so far, you'll have noticed that the piece took on a bit of a wobble. This was because I inadvertently dismounted the piece from the faceplate before I had cut the flutes on the back. And we all know when you try and mount something back on a faceplate, even if you get the screws in the same hole, it's never the same. Anyway, that's not a serious problem. Also, I've had the camera on-off out of sync and have been videoing when I don't want to, or not videoing when I want to, and I think I've missed some of the finishing process. Okay, so I've set up the router and the router table. I've set up the router on the swivel base and screwed the swivel base directly to the router table. Now we need to go across to the laptop and using the spreadsheet work out the number of iterations. Okay, we've loaded up our spreadsheet. We are going to use a 5mm cutter, which is the same diameter as the width of the annular grooves on the rear. The smallest radius is in fact 110mm, which is very big. Because we're only working on the rim, so we're going to be up into the 60s, I suspect. Right, so 60 iterations gives us a gap size of 6.52mm when actually we're looking for 5mm. Now, considering the fact that the flutes on the front of the piece are going to be curved, they are actually going to be quite closer together. So I'll try 60 and see what happens. Okay, using the pencil in the router trick here just to see what type of curve we're going to get on the finished piece. Looking at a couple of options here for the position of the router, I think I prefer the effect from having the router higher than the centre line rather than lower. Setting up the depth of cut here to be about 1/2 mm deeper than the top flute. Immediately here I'm seeing a little bit of tear out. I think this is caused by starting the cut from the inside and not the rim, and also moving the router too fast. Okay then, so the completed article. It's a 12-inch diameter Iroko bowl, 8 inches of which is the practical bowl area. There are 60 iterations there. Some minor issues which I had to repair on the rim, and I think that was caused, as I mentioned earlier, by entering the router from the centre rather than from the rim. Again, for the sharp-eyed amongst you, you might have noticed that the high melamine gloss finish has gone, and I stripped this off camera and replaced it with the Hampshire Sheen high gloss because simply it was too shiny and I didn't like it. I've never turned Iroko before, but I'm actually very pleased with the finish on this. I had no idea it finished so well, and it was relatively easy to work with. Because my handling of the router has improved, I think, there's been less sanding to do. Although dust control when I was using the melamine lacquer was a bit of a challenge. 60 iterations of the fluting is a lot, but it actually looks like a nice fine detail. If that's not challenging enough, Paul Howard tells me he's just done one with 120. That's quite depressing. So that just about... Wait. Yes, I've been looking for you. You stole my UKIS ticket. Yes, you did. You left me here all weekend on my own. Mrs. goes away to see her sister in Coventry, and I'm here all by myself. Huh. Hang on a minute, she hasn't got a sister in Coventry.